Welcome to Drawn from Art, or Drawn to Art. Yeah. I'm going to draw the iconic white dragon. This is the Todd Lockwood version of the white dragon. Happens to be one of my favorites. So I am looking at a reference for this, but I'm doing my own side angle. I'm just looking at the details to see where they are. And what I want to talk about during this video was the mythology surrounding dragons is absolutely fascinating. For example, the idea that a dragon is the amalgamation of different threats that humans have faced over the years. Because there's really no difference between, say, messing up at work and the threat of getting fired, and coming across a tiger in the woods. They feel very, very much the same. In fact, all of the same systems get activated. And this is why dragons are so pervasive in multiple cultures around the world, because they represent, threats from different things. Like, there probably was a time when, there were birds that would like take our babies away, snakes, lions, and so it's the coming together of all these different ideas. In fact, Godzilla is a Japanese myth that was born out of the atomic bomb. And you really see this in the movies, the Godzilla movies. There's I think it was Godzilla -1 is so good. Because there's this one point where you see where it, blows up this certain part of Japan, and it looks just like what happened with the atomic bomb. So we will create these creatures that are, examples, or they embody the threats and horror that we're trying to deal with. One of the things I like about the white dragon is it not only does it, spit like freezing cold ice, but it's also something that is associated with avalanches. One of the ideas of dragons is that there's this really good book called I Don't Believe in Dragons. There's No Such Thing as Dragons. It's actually a children's book. And it's where this child starts to see this little dragon in the house. But the mother says, well, there's no such thing as dragons. So he's like, okay. So he just sees this dragon being there, and the more that she ignores it, the bigger it gets, until finally it walks away with the whole house. And this is like a really great analogy to things that happen in people's lives where, they're ignoring something. there's something they're not paying attention to, and it starts to build up to the point where finally it becomes a big problem. And avalanches are like that, because avalanches, snow slowly accumulates on the mountain, and there comes this tipping point when it just comes down like a dragon spreading its wings. A white dragon spreading its wings. So that's kind of what's beautiful about these ideas. You know, it's a monster that if we aren't careful, if we don't respect it, if we don't deal with it, you know, when it's small, it will come and take us out. But I think that a lot of myths and religions are built upon this idea. When you look at like the stories in the Bible, a lot of it is, you know, people not heeding God or not being oriented properly. And they end up, you know, being punished for it. Which, of course, you know, there's a Discord that I like to go on, and they debate about this stuff all the time. And of course, you've got atheists who are like basically saying, you know, yeah, God doesn't exist because, you know, well, God could do this, blah, blah, blah. There's no evidence. Sure. But this story still has merit. Like, fine. Supernatural gods, I can get behind that there's, you know, there's no merit in that. But when it comes to dealing with the unknown, when it comes to dealing with a dragon of chaos, which a god is a dragon of chaos. I mean, this is why a lot of people, you know, they say, well, God doesn't exist because evil's here. God created evil. It's like, well, again, I'm not trying to make an argument for God. What I'm trying to make an argument for is the fact that, sure, concepts and ideas like evil exist. But really what we're talking about is the unknown. When we're talking about dragons, we're talking about the unknown. We're talking about our inability to properly understand the world and how that could potentially hurt us. And that's where, you know, white dragons and snow, avalanches come into play. Because, you know, dragons sleep, and an avalanche sleeps until it's disturbed. And when it hits that tipping point, then, you know, all hell breaks loose. And this is what just enthralls me about the concept and the idea of dragons in general. Because there is this nature to them. But, of course, you know, you're going to have some, well, dragons don't exist. Sure. But what I'm talking about does exist. And our ability to conceptualize it using mythology or symbolism it's not a bad way to go about doing it. So I think it's a great way to go about doing it. Because we're going to encapsulate it much better. Even though it's not perfect, we're going to be able to get it in bigger brush strokes. Which is, speaking of bigger brush strokes, that is something I want to explore and get into, is creating drawings that are, you know, are captured in those bigger brush strokes. Brush strokes. But yeah, so I am using a reference for this. This particular reference I'm using for this dragon, its head was cocked down. and I straightened it out. So I'm just looking at the details of it and, making sure those are in place. Another thing I'm going to do as I go on, I'm going to bring these pictures back out and trace over them. I'll use like a light board to get to be able to get more confident strokes, and then, work on different types of shading. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff that I need to learn when it comes to drawing and shading in general. And exploring dragons and the mythology and symbolism around them, I think, is going to be super fun. And it will give me what's it called? Multivariant approach to the topic, and, the topic of drawing, but also the topic of what these things represent. Yeah, I love my favorite dragon is Tiamat. Because Tiamat has all 5 heads. Tiamat is technically a hydra. And in a lot of mythology, creatures or people that have multiple eyes, like, what was his name? I can't remember his name. But there's a lot of people who have like eyes that go all the way around their head. And, that symbolizes someone who sees a lot. Horus, was it Horus? The Egyptian? Oh, this is horrible. I'm not prepared, but it's fine. This is all part of the process of me doing this, is not being prepared, realizing I need to be prepared next time better, and then doing that. So that's my plan. But, like Medusa. Medusa has all those snakes on her head, and they can see everywhere. Medusa is a type of hydra. And hydras, one of the things that they have is that they can see various directions. And, and they can be in several places at once. Like, some of the Hindu gods have like multiple arms, which means that they can do multiple things, be in multiple places. And that's part of what that represents. And Tiamat, having 5 heads, and then having the white, the blue, the black, the green, and the red dragon, it also has command over all of those elements. So it's like formidable. One of my favorite stories is a campaign, The Rise of Tiamat. So cool. I would love to play that campaign sometime, or even DM it. That would be a lot of fun. So, yeah. So there's a nature to these particular dragons. The white dragon, for example, like the red dragon, can be representative of fires, which could be like wildfires or volcanoes. That's why the red dragon has a very stony appearance. The horns they look very much like stone. In fact, there's a lot of dragons you'll see that they look like stone, and they're typically fire breathers, because they are representative of the incredible force of nature that is lava. yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch of different versions of shading on this. It's funny though because like as I draw these, I always notice, like I haven't noticed what I did wrong in this one, but I always do something wrong. Something isn't exactly right. Like for example, in the last video I did of the scab, I need to make the skull or the dome, the head dome bigger. But those are some of the things that I can correct when I trace over it. So let me continue to talk about the elements of drawing. There's two important things to drawing. One is your ability to see and your ability to draw. So your ability to let your hand do what it needs to do, because you can't consciously control it to do what you want it to do. So the way you handle those two things is, so I talked about in the previous video, I referenced the book W. Timothy Galloway's book, The Inner Game of Tennis, where he talks about self one and self two. So self one is your executive, your director. And it's the person who basically it's the conscious part of you. It's the part that decides where to go. It's the one that makes the decisions. Self two is the subconscious part. It's the automated part. So when you've done something enough and it moves into that automation, it frees up resources, frees up self one so it can, it doesn't have to consciously have to handle each thing. In fact, there's a guy, I was watching a really interesting documentary on the brain. And there's this guy who, I don't know exactly what happened to him, but I think his brain got damaged in some way where he can't move subconsciously. He has to exert conscious effort into every movement he makes because he's lost that ability. That's so interesting. So it's almost like he's lost, self too. I don't know exactly what that means, but this is a good way of looking at it. So self two is your ability to draw, and self one is your awareness. Your what you become aware of is what you're able to see. And I've been working on a lot of Zen work, just like, Zen philosophy when it comes to engaging in the beginner's mind. Because that's really what you want to do, is you want to always come at things as a beginner. Even if you've been doing it for forever. You want to be able to see things in a new way. And by the way, this is like one of the benefits of doing things with people that, you might have done it, but they never have. You can live vicariously through them. Children are another great example of this. You can live vicariously through children because they see the world fresh. And you learning to see the world fresh is a very, very important skill. Oh, I really like the shading I'm doing here. I can't wait to redo this and see what I can learn. But yeah, like learning to see. And this is another reason why I'm doing these videos, because I want you guys to comment and give me your feedback, because that's going to be important to me to see things new. that interaction. I want to learn from you guys because, I've been alive on this earth for X amount of years. And I have developed habits. This is why, like, adults, it's there's this misconception that adults can't learn as well as children. But it's just not true. You have to take on a child's mind. But most adults are dissuaded from doing that, or they're made fun of, or but I think nowadays that most people realize it's an important thing. But even like in some philosophies, they understand that having the child's mind, so you go from child to young adult to the wise man, who then goes back to the child. You see this a lot in Eastern philosophies. It's this whole idea of starting the beginning, becoming a master, and then becoming a beginner again. And this is something that's taught in Zen as well. So, yeah, it's a really important idea. And the reason why it's important is because you can't learn if you can't see. You guys have probably heard the story of the Zen master where someone wanted to learn Zen, and so they went over to Japan or China, wherever the Zen master was, and started talking to the Zen master and telling him everything they knew about Zen. So the Zen master said, "Would you like some tea?" And he gets the tea and he starts pouring into his cup, and he lets it overflow. And the guy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's enough. Like, my cup is full." And he goes, "That's right. You come here to learn Zen, but you come here with a full cup. You need to empty your cup." And this is the beginner's mind. This is the idea of, you got to empty your cup when you're going to learn something, so that you can come at it from a fresh perspective, like a child does. So, and this is something that I've been doing, and it's been improving my art, like, dramatically. Is, like, I'm so much happier. Like, I'm very happy with this piece. It came together really, really nice. And I can't wait to do it again. I'm going to lightly trace over it using a light board. Or, I'm going to create another version of it. And I'm going to work on, different shading techniques. But I really like how this one turned out. It looks really, really nice. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of different types of dragons. D&D dragons, and dragons from famous movies like Game of Thrones, Reign of Fire. Oh, great dragon in that. Oh, and Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer has to be the best. Like, when I was a kid, it was the best dragon movie. It had the best dragon in it. I didn't see another great dragon in a movie until Reign of Fire. All of them were kind of, silly and not done very well. And of course, Game of Thrones dragons are amazing. They're just getting better. Harry Potter dragon is good too. So, well, I think I'm pretty much finished with this one. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. And I'll be talking more philosophy, dragons, myths. So, have a good one.